So midlife is tough. It's super tough on women and their bodies. Can we talk about this, please? I have had a few experts on this subject throughout the year so far. And today I'm inviting Dr. Alice Burron, and I love her because I love her philosophy on helping us become our own health heroes. That is the journey that she is on. She's writing a book about it. Her business is the Health Navigator, helping to kind of match people to coaches that are going to help you kind of reorganize the way you think about coming around a health issue. So instead of over relying on that Western medical model of go into the doctor, I have a problem, they'll fix it, they'll give me a pill or something of the like, she wants us to become more body aware. She wants us to become more of an advocate and more empowered in our own health outcomes and health journeys. And that is what we sat down and talked about in today's podcast. So if you're somebody that has struggled with weight gain, with all these symptoms that show up in perimenopause and menopause and, just midlife in general, because listen, we've got some miles on this body and it's not functioning in the same way as it always has. If any of that is stuff that you have questions about and how to address and where to even begin, then you'll want to keep listening.
I know your deep, dark secret. You don't like your life. You're a woman in midlife, and for the past 2 decades or more, you've poured yourself in to other people. You've poured yourself into your career, your family, and yet on the inside, you feel broken. And that's no way to be. I'm Dr. Natalie Marr. I'm a clinical psychologist and a life transition expert. It wasn't too long ago that I was in your shoes, waking up in my early 40s, thinking I've got 2 failed marriages and I'm a single mom for the second time in my life. And I just knew that I could do better, that I could feel better. Fortunately for you, I have about 20 years experience clinically. And so I've created a method that will help you learn to love your story. I know that the story that you're telling yourself about your life feels awful. And I know that you think that you can't change that. I assure you, you can. And when we work together, I'm going to help you to craft a different story, a story that you love, a story that makes you want to get up every single day. Let's work together to help you love your story.
Are you on my mailing list yet? Because if you're not, you really should be. You want to join at learntoloveyourstory.com. If you scroll down, I'm giving away a freebie for you. Honestly, you know what it is? A free course. I sell online courses, but this is a course just for you. And it's about freeing yourself, letting go of what others' expectations and ideas are for you. That nagging self-doubt in your head, it's usually fueled by your consideration of what others think of you over your consideration of what you think of you. And so I teach you in my video all about what is underlying that kind of self-doubt and how to get out of that conundrum. And I give you a workbook that goes with it that helps you to build the skill sets that you're going to need for that. So please make sure you're on my mailing list, because at the least, you're going to get a free gift. And at the most, you're going to hear about all the things that we're doing on Midlife Crisis to a Centered Life Thriving and learntoloveyourstory.com. And you don't want to be missing out on any of the new things that'll be coming your way.
Welcome back to Midlife Crisis to a Centered Life Thriving. Today's guest is Dr. Alice Burron, and she has a whole host of things to help us with. Her tagline is to be your own health hero, which I find to be absolutely amazing. But without further ado, let's talk about who Dr. Alice Burron is. She's a health coach, exercise physiologist, personal trainer, and healthcare educator. For over 20 plus years, she has worked with individuals to overcome health challenges such as weight loss, physical fitness, disease management and reversal for conditions such as rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, cancer, hormone and gut concerns, and type 2 diabetes. Alice believes that we all have so much more healing power than we realize. But in order to tap into that potential, we must overcome the current forces against our health. Alice teaches people about those forces and what to do to overcome them. And she has created a clear approach to navigating health concerns so that people can heal themselves and those they love faster. So let's welcome Dr. Alice. Welcome back to Midlife Crisis to a Centered Life Thriving. We have Dr. Alice Burron with us today. And without further ado, thank you for being on the podcast, Alice. This is so exciting.
Excited. Yay. Thanks
good.
so much.
Yeah. So tell us, what is your story? That is always our first question on the podcast. So this could be as long as from the beginning of your time on. It could be something that's more related to what it is that you're doing and presenting to us today. But tell us your story.
Well, I won't start from the beginning because we only have a short period of time. I certainly don't want to have your listeners stop right then and there. So let's talk about my story as far as it relates to your audience, women in midlife.
Yeah.
So just a little bit of background. So I've always had a lot of curiosity around sciences, especially around physical sciences, and wanted to be a veterinarian when I grew up, which is hilarious because that didn't work out so well. And it's really ironic. The reason I couldn't become a veterinarian was when I had severe allergies. I would go into the clinic for my practicals and it was awful. And so turned that down and said, all right, my body does not want me to be a veterinarian.
My heart wants me to work with animals, but my sinuses, they have a different agenda entirely.
Adjusted to humans. And then started really being curious about human physiology, and then ended up getting my master's in exercise science, which is exercise physiology on the human exercise end of the equation, which really is everything, because when you're talking about exercise, all systems are involved. Everything needs to be accounted for when you're talking about peak performance, all of the things. So I started really getting curious about that, and then getting kind of more curious too about personal training and how to get people active, and starting from non-active to active rather than working on the athletes.
Yeah.
And I started to do that. I started to really recognize that there were some psychological barriers for people getting active. I couldn't put my finger on it. It was hard for me to understand, but I became a personal trainer, a health coach, trying to understand more about what it is I could help them see, or how could I explain this in a way that makes them want to exercise?
Yeah.
And then later on, all of the experience kind of started to morph into this strategy to really meet the person where they're at. It was a person-centered approach that I began to put out there for people, instead of an exercise-focused approach, which was, exercise aerobically 3 days a week, your strength training twice a week, stretching in between, and balance training, and then let's talk about nutrition.
Yeah.
Well, that's all really, really important and foundational, but it did not seem to get people to shift into a state where they were continuing on these behaviors, still couldn't understand it. So I started to dive in deeper. The psychology behind it is probably even more important than it is the physiology, because when you have the psychology behind you, the physiology just seems to happen.
It does.
So, yeah, it's really fun to watch, like, how things morphed from there. But personal training was really starting to change from personal training into more health management. So I had a lot of my clients ask me, what do I do about my thyroid? I've got to fix my thyroid. What do I do about my gut? I've got to fix my gut. And instead of being exercise focused, it ended up being condition focused. I have a chronic condition. Let's fix it. And I thought, this is interesting because the condition is now driving your behavior. It's not person centered anymore. It's condition centered, right?
Yeah.
And I'm starting to see these patterns going, well, we need to think about how we can put you first, not your health issue first, not exercise first, and come at it from you. And so I started to really work with people through these health issues, starting from scratch. Tell me about you. Tell me about your life. Tell me about your genetics. Tell me about what you eat. Just tell me about what's going on in your life, and it all starts to unveil when
Yeah.
you start to get more self-awareness into what's going on in their life, what's been going on in their year, what's been going on, in their week. Then they start to see these patterns form, and they start to really, like literally, you can see aha moments all the time. I got
Right.
addicted to that. I really love that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like once you can start to see people figure it out, connect the dots, light bulbs are going off, you're on to something. And that's
Mm-hmm.
where I started this new journey on trying to get people to navigate through their health. And
Yeah.
so self-navigation is really where I am today. And then I still think that there's more to be done on a global level, not just the individual, but I want to spread the message that there's hope for you too. There's hope for anyone who's struggling with any health challenge. There's always an option. There's always an intervention. There's always another way. Don't give up. You have so much to look
Yeah.
forward to. Healing is always happening. Let's just accelerate it. Let's look at it from a bigger physiological perspective, but let's also look at the forces that are acting against you right now. That's
Mm-hmm.
both external and internal forces. And let's start like addressing those. And when you do that, then you start to change the way you interact with your health, your
Yeah.
day, everything that you do. Everything impacts health. But when you're starting to really understand the value of thinking and asking questions and being more curious, it just changes everything. It changes
Mm-hmm.
how you approach everything. And if you want to have this person-centered, really want the most joyful life, you have to have your health alongside you, or you'll be distracted. And I
Yes.
think we need to actually get a hold of ourselves, get a grip. And I'm here to help people do that very thing. And I created a system to sort of walk people through that a little at a time so they can feel like they're making progress.
You know what I really appreciate about that whole journey is that you really could see that there's something bigger than just our physiology, even though you're a physiologist by trade, right? Like you're coming into it with the exercise lens, with the body lens. And yet what you noticed is other factors are holding us back. And I also like on the other end of what, on these health journeys that you want us to stay curious. You want us to stay non-judgmental. You want us to be, investigators in our own life so that we can unpack kind of what is contributing to these issues and not in a way that's like, and tisk, because you didn't do these 15 million things that you were supposed to do, but really more like the scientist model, which that's
right.
Similar to my approach to things too, as I teach my listeners here, because I just want people to not, there's so much judgment. It's so laden in our culture that I think that it's so easy to just get hard on ourselves and want to quit instead of just being really curious and interested. Well, I didn't do anything unusual in my life to have arrived at these health conditions. So wow, like I should unpack this. Like, where did my physiology interface with how my lifestyle was and where my psychology is, my emotional wellness is, and how did it, kind of all combine into this issue for me so that you can figure out how to get out of that issue instead of just being upset that you must have contributed to it. I think there's way too much of that in Western culture where we're kind of blaming the individual for their circumstance. And it's not a character flaw, folks. It's just, this is how our anatomy shows up in our environment, really.
And I think our environment is really one of those huge forces against our health. Our culture is a huge force. Our social life can be a huge force against our health. There's some external forces that are at play that we're not even aware of, but once we become aware, it's kind of like when you're in the forest and you're walking through and you start to recognize there might be creatures that are going to hurt you, you'll start to pay attention to the sound. You'll start to pay attention to the environment around you, like there's a corner, maybe I better be careful when I go through this, this place and this path. And I think that's what I see people kind of not thinking through their day and impact of all of those threats, really, they're health threats.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what I think the first step to do is to go, okay, I'm I'm subject to a lot of the forces that are against my health. And until I know what those are, I can't do anything about them. I will continue to do the same thing. And doing the same thing isn't getting us in a very good way. I mean, many
Yeah.
of us are taking care of our health the way we should because we're being more of this kind of more of a victim of it rather than being proactive with it. And I
Yes.
really want to empower women to look around and ask that question. Why is it that I feel like I have to always go to my doctor first?
Mm.
Why don't I think about this a little bit and kind of look back and see what it is that I can do first? And this medical first approach that we have in our culture is one of those problems. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything negative against doctors. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do, but we're expecting them to do more. And
Yeah.
the reality
Yeah.
is we have to own that. We actually have to be more proactive and like empower ourselves to be able to say what's going on right now. Our culture isn't healthy. Maybe your parents at some point in time taught you how to manage your health without you even recognizing it in a way that wasn't healthy.
Right.
Did they let you get away with some things like just eating macaroni and cheese all the time? I mean,
Yeah.
what did that tell you when you were little and you were learning about how to manage your health?
Mm-hmm.
And if you have, if you live in the United States, you're like most people, you're going to the doctor, and the US is a medical first culture. But I have this statistic that doctors even think we're going to the doctor too much.
Wow.
So
I mean,
20,
think about that.
I
That's
know,
okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
20% of medical care is unnecessary.
Wow.
And they say that 22% of prescription medications are unnecessary too. And 25% of medical tests are necessary.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yet we have this label everywhere that says, go to your doctor before you do this, go to your doctor before you do that. That's
Yeah.
the culture we are in. And little wonder we're confused. Little wonder we're going to the doctor all the time. I just think awareness about why we're doing that is going to really help. And I think it's going to be more self-empowering. The doctor isn't going to be in control of your health destiny. You are.
No. No.
And you
And yeah, and I think if they can though, like I think the way that you're telling us this, that we are kind of creating this phenomenon where the doctors are in control of our health destiny almost.
yeah.
If we're always going in like I'm broken, fix it, right? It's a problem, fix it. And what
Right.
I think I hear you implying or saying kind of underneath all of this is what we really could use is a re-education and a reorganizing of how we think about this so that we're thinking about our body as just a message machine. So if something doesn't feel right, it doesn't mean something's broken. It means our body is telling us something, and that we could attune and build better self-awareness of what that means. Is
That's
that what I'm hearing you
exactly right.
say? Yeah.
That's exactly right. And if you think about, a thyroid going awry or your blood work not looking quite right, even if you change something in your lifestyle behavior, maybe it's your stress, or maybe it's your diet a little bit, or getting a little more active, or go seeking therapy. All those things are going to impact that issue because all systems are related.
Yeah.
Your thyroid doesn't act alone in the body. It is in tandem with all the other systems.
Yes.
From, your nervous system, you've got your digestive tract. All of these things are working together in tandem. So what you may notice in your thyroid may actually be something else. And yet we want to fix the thyroid. But I think there's so many ways to go about healing ourselves and just being on top of our health and being proactive, that there really isn't a wrong approach unless it's a bad approach. But we all are unique. And I want to empower also everyone who has health in general to look at it as their health, not someone else's health. You are unique. So you can come up with your own approach. Now, what does that mean? Go to the internet and just search on the internet.
Well, what does that mean? Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about your process and what you would suggest in reorganizing how we approach this, what do we do for second, third?
Well, you have to buy the book.
Okay, we can do that. We can certainly do that.
It will be laid out very clearly. But I think it first goes back. There's a lot of things that should happen to set that stage. But the first is recognizing healing can happen and believing that. The second is recognizing you have your own individual health philosophy. And you don't even know you have one, but you do.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And your health philosophy really centers around how much risk are you willing to take? How much money are you willing to spend? How much time are you willing to commit? And also, how much, I guess, when I think about people approaching their health, it's so unique in that there is something there that you do all the time, regularly with your health that you don't even know you do because you have some default approach. So what is that default approach? And work within that approach. This is why diets don't work at the beginning of the year. Half the country goes on a diet. January, they don't work because they're not taking an approach that's for them. They're going out of the default. And so when you start to understand what your tolerance is for these things, you can start to put together sort of this philosophy. My philosophy is somewhat like, medical is important, but I'm going to try first. It's something to that effect. Like, I need to take a moment and breathe before I do X. You can come up with that philosophy or that mantra, but a philosophy really does involve understanding where you want that medical care to come in and where you want to own the rest. Because once you're in the medical system, once you're in the healthcare system, I can't really help you. And I work in the healthcare system still. And it has its own momentum that's very hard to overcome, and it's very challenging. So once you're in there, you've made a big choice to be in the medical system. But if you want to have that as your default approach, then own it. You're not going to probably heal, you're going to treat. And that's okay if that's what you're looking for. But if it's not, and you want to heal, so your definition of healing is to actually recover, then you can look at it from the perspective of, all right, so there are a lot of approaches to look into. First of all, given my lifestyle, where can I do better? What is missing? And starting looking at it from that direction. And I put it in 3 buckets. You have lifestyle interventions, complementary interventions like massage or acupuncture, and then you have the medical system. You have those 3 to work within. Those are your 3 buckets to choose from. And lifestyle are the ones that are going to heal. Complementary will probably heal and treat symptoms. And I mean, there's crossover for sure, but the medical system is treat only. So you can do the treat and then also do the healing at the same time. And you can start to put together this sort of game plan. I call it like the playbook that you're going to follow through your health issue and say, all right, I am going to go to the doctor. I'm going to rule out all the bad stuff. But in the meanwhile, I'm going to put 2 lifestyle interventions in place, 3 complementary interventions, because this is what I can afford. This is what I'm willing to put into and commit to, and then track it and see how it goes. Instead of this random, let's go to the internet and just, panic and our emotions get in the way. And we're like, oh no, I have this terrible thing. And they tell me that I need to take this medication or whatever it might be. And the next thing you know, you're in a whole nother trajectory and can just start to see where the paths start to deviate. Where you own your destiny or where you just let the current go. And if you want to ride the current and the flow like you've been doing, you're going to get what you've been getting. And if you can
rocked around. I mean, that's what you're going to get rocked around. You want to own it so that you can feel like you are more empowered and more able to kind of ride the wave of it instead of just feel pulled and pushed by all of those waves.
And you actually have a true north that you're aiming for. You know what you want, you know how to go there, and you know you have a plan. Do you know how good that feels in the middle of a health crisis?
I know.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Absolutely amazing. And I've watched people go through this over and over again. The crisis doesn't change, but they change because they feel like they're in control, they're empowered, they have a plan, and they know when to adjust the plan because they have a plan to do that. And they have an understanding of the risk that they're taking, how it's going to look. they have full knowledge of that.
Yes.
They may not have full knowledge of what's going to happen, but that no one does.
Yeah,
You know,
nobody
that's-
does. I just had a podcast recently where I talked about we can't be planning and have a plan for everything. That's not a feasible, reasonable thing. However, you can trust the planner. You could kind of flip that around and think about it like I could be prepared for anything if I'm always reinvesting in self-awareness, knowing myself, knowing my health, having a process, having a philosophy around my health, and going back to kind of those core anchors so that I feel in control when there is an unknown factor that I'm still trying to investigate and figure out how to best address in my health and wellness.
Certainly. Certainly. I mean, I agree. You can't have a plan for everything, but if you start to look at one health issue in your life, even a small one, it could be an ache or a pain, and you implement the strategy for that, you'll start to get an understanding of it enough so that the next time something comes up, then you already have that kind of innately in you. It's not like you write it all out. It's like, all right, I know I'm going to try these two things and I'm going to rule out the bad thing and I'm going to move forward because it worked before.
So it's like a system. You're just kind of systematically approaching it. Again, trusting the planner instead of having a plan for every case scenario that it could be.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. But in the midst, you're more aware. So you understand those forces are still rocking your boat. You understand the culture is still working against you. You're going to have those naysayers. They're going to say, no, you need to do it this way. Or I do this, you should too. And they mean well. They really do. And everyone has your health in mind for the most part, except for advertisers and people who are making money on it.
Yep. I think and that's the dark underbelly of a lot of these things, including when you Google stuff, right? Like what's going to come up to the top is likely tied to something that somebody's making money off of.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But those people around you, and obviously you care about yourself. So for the most part, I would say the information is well-meaning for the most part. And if you know that, though, you can kind of start to bucket it. Is this one I should consider? But when you do consider it, then you need to look into it. And seriously do that. It doesn't take long, but you need to understand, what you're looking for. Is this real? Is this trusted? Is this true? How likely is this to work? It doesn't take that long.
No.
It sounds worse than it is. But once you start to really understand and you can get feedback from others, did this work for you? Ask a couple of professionals, what do you think? The next thing you know, you have a pretty solid structure. You can count, and you can feel good about, and even if it doesn't work, you can feel good that you did your best.
Yeah.
And I think right now in our health, when we manage our health, we have a lot of internal forces working against us too. We get scared, our biases get in the way. And just knowing that self-awareness within us is just as important, because then we're more likely to be susceptible if we're emotional or we have a bias in play. If we don't know they're happening, then we're probably going to choose an approach that won't be the best approach.
Exactly.
Step back.
Exactly.
There's that.
So I'm wondering, as I hear you talk about this, are there any certain barriers that, women in midlife, since that's my listenership, might be like you're seeing them run into more often than not? And any thoughts you have on how they might address those challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, women in midlife have kind of the worst of it, I would say. And my heart goes out to us and you. And I know.
It's a tough ride. This little strip. Yes, it is.
Tough. And my heart goes out to you. That is why I do what I do for you. Because you have kids that you're worried about. You have aging parents you're worried about. But you're also, your whole body is changing and transitioning. And our culture doesn't embrace that transition. No. Our culture is counter to health in general, but it's even worse when you're in midlife. You're still expected to do things that you did when you're in your 20s. You're still expected to look the same way, have the same energy, and life changes, we change. No, that's not fair to you and your body. The other thing is, you're trying to manage someone else over here your kiddo or maybe your aging parent, and you're going through all of this emotionally, physically within you, how do you approach it best is to take care of you first.
Okay.
And so we really do need to focus right now to stop everything. You are always going to take care of those around you because that's who you are. But now it's a time to stop and say, how can I manage me better and my health? And it's mental health and it's physical health because they're all tied together. Once again, not one system dominates over another. They are all connected. So if something's awry in your health, women my age, the first thing they need to do is self-compassion. I think recognize.
I love that.
I love that. You need to take a minute. Just take a minute. Just take a breath and embrace those emotions that you're feeling because they're real.
Yes.
And then look at those and just hear them and embrace them and then give them away. And start to make some kind of plan to make yourself stronger in the midst, which you already are. But now it's just arming yourself with a few things that are going to make you what I call a health hero. I call her health hero girl.
I love it. I love that tagline.
I really did make this. I'm writing this book. It will be released in February, but it is for you, hero girl. Because you are actually doing things that people don't do. And that is taking a minute, being self-aware, recognizing that you are human and you don't always do everything perfectly and nor should you. And that you're doing your best, but you can do better. Because I would say women my age aren't doing very well managing their health. They really aren't.
No.
It's sad.
And I think in large part for all those reasons you said, we're in this unfair position and so socially conditioned to believe that we should be able to do all the same things we did when we were younger in the same capacity that we just beat ourselves up and double down, right? Instead, we're just like, we'll try harder. We'll do it again. We'll just like muscle it out. And that's a recipe for disaster, as you and I both know. So I really love that idea of bringing some self-compassion to this and self-care and putting yourself first, not as like a selfish act in the kind of pop culture definition of selfish being self-centric, but in this idea of if you're taking care of this vessel, then everything you do, all the service you want to do, all the caring you want to do is improved because you're improved. Yes, absolutely.
Yes. And trust that. You may not want to do that because you feel like everyone should come first, but trust that you should right now. And when you do, and you start to take a minute and just be in who you are, your body will talk. It will talk loudly. You will hear things. Your ears might be ringing. You might feel something that you haven't noticed. Maybe you have noticed, but you haven't realized it's progressed that far. Your body's always talking to you.
Yes,
the second you wake up to through the night, it's always saying something. And if you're gently hearing that voice, then you can gently address it. You don't have to be reacting to the disease, right? Oh no, now I have diabetes. What do I do? Instead, you've already picked up on those subtle cues and you're asking your body, all right, what would be the best thing for me to do to help you right now?
Yeah.
And it's a whole nother, and other cultures do this really well, by the way.
Yeah. Better than us. Yeah.
You do not have that culture. So you will feel counterculture. You will feel weird in this process. But you're starting to hear more about it, especially as yoga has been brought forward as a really popular exercise that people do. It's got that more of that mindfulness to it.
Yes.
It's a matter of being mindful, but it's actually a matter of being inward focused.
Right.
So you're mindful, but you're also inquisitive and asking yourself questions, not reaching out looking for answers from the outside. You're reaching for answers from the inside.
Sure.
So I ask my body all the time, what is it that you really need me to eat today? I mean, that's a bizarre thing to ask. But the truth is, we always go for the whatever everyone says is the thing we should go for.
Exactly.
Is that really what your body needs? Is it? Is it really? I mean, I laugh because I was a vegetarian in college for a while. And so as I was eating all these fruits and I look back and I think I was eating salads that were like a bowl this big
Enormous. Yep. Mm-hmm.
for a meal. Is that really what my body needed? No. No.
No.
So I was craving carbohydrates. I still ate cheese pizza. My body was gonna find it one way or another.
Yeah.
So I think if we can be more open to what our body has to say, I think we can really make great headway just with that.
Yeah, well, it goes back to that self-awareness piece. And I'll talk to my listeners about it being a compassionate self-awareness, because you also want to be really kind and understanding as you start to learn, I've been ignoring, like what my body really needed all the way up until this point. I kept looking outside my body to culture and to diet industry and all of that to tell me this is what's healthy, or to the doctor, as you started the podcast, right? I've been looking outside me to tell me what inside me already knew intuitively I needed, if I had just kind of honed the skill of listening to how the body says, this is good. I'm feeling good. I'm energetic. I'm not tired. I'm not sluggish, versus this hurts my stomach. This, is causing bloating. This is slowing my energies down or making me feel tired. Like, it's subtle, and the language of our body is different than English, right? It's different than our verbal languages, but it still is a language.
It's a language.
We need to learn how to speak it and listen to it.
Absolutely. I did create a handout, and maybe I can make this available on my website.
Oh, yeah, we would love that.
So many handouts, but this one in particular just has words to describe how you feel physically. So it has descriptive words for pain, descriptive words for discomfort, because sometimes we're without words, like you said, our bodies talk, but we don't know what it is. It's like it's a sensation, but it's hard to verbalize, especially to your doctor.
Yes.
When you say, I feel uneasy, what are they supposed to do with that? Uneasy. What does that mean?
What does that mean? What is that? Yeah.
And
your uneasy and my uneasy are different. But if we attend, go to the same physician, how is that physician supposed to discern that? So we do
take that and make something out of that when they're thinking in their backlog of, okay, X symptom is this Y treatment. But when you throw a nebulous word out like fatigue or uneasy, they don't have a playbook for that. And so what they're going to do is think, I'm going to treat the symptom. But the reality is we need to be actually looking for the cause.
Sure.
And it might be something super simple, and there are foundational things we do need to know. Bodies love exercise or movement, not just running, but they love to move. They love to move in different directions, different planes, not just forward in a walk. Our eyes love to work like close up and in distance and things like that. Our bodies love. Our bodies love water. Our bodies love good food.
Yes.
And our bodies love fat. And if you're a fat phobe, you need to think about it, because bodies love it. They do. I mean, the science is behind it, but it's got to be, all of this has got to be in moderation and in for you. An extreme in anything isn't good, obviously.
Right.
So you just
and there's quality within all of those macronutrients that you just described. So there's, having a donut, which is not, nutritional in any way, I don't think redeeming in any way, but, there are carbohydrates and good fats that you can mix together in oils and vegetables and fruits and things of that nature. So like the macros need to be there, but we also need to be kind of educating ourselves on listening to that body again. And like, if I eat a donut, I usually get heartburn and I also feel sluggish later in the day. So I know that's not what my body needed. I thought it tasted good psychologically. Probably I was more attracted to that. And it isn't really what my body needed.
No, and you start to really notice what certain things do, like sugar. And sugar is a huge one. Our bodies were never intended to eat it like we do. Ever.
Yes.
And we're not really intended. Our systems aren't set up to drink juice. I'm just saying. Like, y'all like orange juice, seems like it's got a power packed full of vitamin C goodness in there. It may taste good, but if you watch what blood sugar does once you have a little, like even an ounce of orange juice, you'll start to understand that that is an onslaught. That is a actual force against your health. The second that reaches the system, the body has to overreact to take care of it.
Yeah.
And when I looked in cardiac rehab, there were people with low glycemic, or low glucose levels. And when they started to get kind of faint, we'd sit them down, we'd give them a little bit of juice, and they would perk up immediately, and we'd be taking their blood sugar the whole time. It's instant, folks.
Yeah.
You have something in your body, it's instantly in your bloodstream. Your body's going to have to do something with it. Does it need that sugar, whether it's from a good source or not? And then start to pay attention to how you feel, your mood, your heart rate, all the things. Like even watching, like, am I shaky? Just know what happens when you do have those things. And then recognize that your body has to do a lot of work to do something with it. And then at the end, was it worth it? That's the question.
Yeah.
And then start to understand, like, wow, maybe it isn't worth it to have that glass of wine or that beer or that, donut.
Yeah.
But also you've got this social piece that's also kind of working against the logic. You're in a room where tribal people, we just are innately in tune to others around us, and we want to do what they do, and we may grab that donut because of that.
Yep.
What do you do in those instances, and just being a little thinking ahead, being preemptive and just having your strategy already? It's like, no, I already had my donut today. Thank you. Whatever.
I already did that.
It might be, but it is incredible to watch in a room what people do when they're together. And, birds of a feather flock together too. So you find those people that you want to be like or are like, smokers like smokers, people who eat out, they hang out together. I mean, it's just what it is.
Yeah.
And if you're really wanting to kind of shift over, you may have to make some new cultures within that, not have to like totally push those old ones away. But as you're learning more about yourself and how your body responds, kind of start to pay attention to inside you and then outside you too.
Right.
And like, what is driving you to want that? What is driving you to take that? And those right? It's all curiosity, and it's a lovely dance between, not overthinking it and being simple about it, but learning yourself is just like going to people school.
It is. It's like going to people school. It's going to school for you. On the subject of you. Yeah, exactly. I like
and
that.
At the end, you're going to get your owner's manual, and you'll start to know you better than ever. But what's crazy is that you'll constantly change. And in midlife, women in midlife are constantly changing yet again. And again. Women are always changing throughout their life. And here we have to like listen to the symptoms again and not panic, no emotions, have that philosophy, take a deep breath, a lot of self-compassion, and then try to, define what those symptoms are, take them, look at them and say, can I do anything about them? Body, what are you thinking? What would help me right now? Most of the time it'll tell you, you need to rest. You need to slow down. You need more margins. You need to eat better. It'll tell you. So trust that it will.
Yeah. Do you have any like success stories or stories of individuals you've worked with where it's just been really remarkable kind of seeing this journey when you help people to become their own health hero girl?
Yeah, absolutely. I have one younger client and she's amazing. She came to me with PMDD. And
which is premenstrual depression or premenstrual disorder, I think is the technical name.
Yeah. Hormone imbalance, and we're trying to understand her cycle and all the things that were going on. And so the doctor told her to go on the pill. So she went on the pill, and it was interesting to watch how her body just sort of flatlined, her life flatlined. Everything flatlined. When you mess with hormones, things change.
Things change, yeah.
Then it's
not like you said earlier, it's not just one system. It's that system is interconnected with so many systems. So you change it and then you change the variable to all these other symptoms.
Absolutely. And at the end, she recognized she didn't want to be on the pill. That wasn't the strategy she wanted to use after introspection,
Mm-hmm.
really understanding her philosophy. She wanted more of this holistic approach.
Okay.
So she got off the pill. It was hard.
I'm
She
sure.
had a lot of problems. And, of course, she was worried about getting pregnant and all the things. So there was an emotional piece to that too.
Yeah.
But as she built her journey, she started doing things that were so incredible. She would draw her moods throughout the month.
Oh my goodness.
And
how cool
she put
is
them
that?
away. And then she would draw the next month and then compare. They were the same. And she started, yes, like the colors.
Oh, I love that.
Was the same as the colors that next month in the same week of her phase. And even the themes were.
Yes.
And it was mind blowing.
Yeah. I mean, it's so to connect the cycle to emotional and psychological states. It's really like, if I can, I don't know. I'm trying to think of how to describe this to listeners, but it's all of it. It's the thoughts that are running through your mind. It's the way your body is physically feeling in those moments. It's the level of, irritability, anxiousness, blahness, all of it. And you kind of assume that that's changing, with each and every day, just because there's different factors in each and every day. But when you clock your cycle in some way, with art is amazing, by the way, but when you clock your cycle in some way, you're endlessly fascinated with, oh dang, I'm like, this is exactly how I felt 30 days ago, 28 days ago, whatever your cycle is.
Exactly.
Yes.
You can start to see those patterns.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then she introduced a couple of variables in there that she tested and selected. She'd done her homework, and they were mainly around eating. So she really watched her calories. She ate all day long instead of eating in 3 meals. She really switched it up, and she tracked it. And all of the paintings, all of her drawings became happier.
I love it.
And
I love it.
And, she put those away. She implemented the strategy, gave it a couple months, started drawing again, and they were all happier. So just interesting to see, what the body is actually feeling coming out in this, because it's we're more complex than you know.
Oh, we totally are.
It's just one way to tap into you.
Yeah.
And journaling is another way to do that.
Journaling is another way, but I love these examples because like giving my listeners ideas of other ways to build your own self-reflection, just color. I mean, you don't have to color in the lines of anything, just color and just put swatches on a page and you'll see consistencies. Yeah.
You could even log what your music preferences are throughout. But what she did learn was there was something really innate and deep within her that was struggling, and she was able to try to address it with self-compassion and ended up making it kind of shift a whole level up.
Yes.
And not just one time, one thing, but it was everything that she shifted, doing just a little lifestyle intervention with food. But later, her husband actually came to me. And he had a health condition too, but it was more on the mental side. And what was amazing is not that I am any therapist or offered him any advice, but I helped him create a strategy too that was so similar to his wife's. And
interesting.
Together, they kind of went through their own journey, but they were keeping each other accountable. But at the end, he told me, I don't know what would have happened had I didn't have a strategy. I probably would have just gave up.
Yeah.
Do you know how empowering that is?
That is. That is.
He actually felt like he could own it, and he went through, he did a couple of different things. He saw an acupuncturist. He started to do reflexology because he's just got that bend, and it just resonated with his soul. So not everybody will find that resonating with their soul. You have to try, experiment, learn. Sometimes it won't work. That's great. That's news. That's important information too. Your body may not want that, may not need it. As a matter of fact, it may not like it. Then don't do it.
Then don't do it. Yeah. Just listen. Just listen.
There's thousands of other options out there. There are so many options out there.
Yeah.
So
And I love that philosophy, though. Again, it kind of comes back to that. You operate like a local clinical scientist and you're helping people kind of make themselves their own research projects. And all of that just means like, I know that many times women are looking for the answer, like that's the
right,
Googling, right? Or looking at books or whatever. And what you're describing is, everybody is too unique and individualistic for that to actually be a thing. So you can give them kind of methods for test it out, then listen, then figure out, like be plotting that along in some way where you're tracking it and deciding, is this information that's going to help me to continue with the thing I tried? Or do I give it up and try something else because this doesn't work for me?
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And the physiology side is really important. I think use the internet for that. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you're looking at a symptom, what system is at play? Is it your GI tract? Is it your central nervous system? What
Got it.
system is really at play? And once you know, then you can kind of, start to look into how to support that system.
Got
If
it.
it's
Got
a
it.
musculoskeletal system, you have sore joints. What's up with that? Maybe it's an inflammation problem.
Mm-hmm.
Start to look at the immune system and how can you support that. But no matter what you do, you may get at it from a different angle, and that's okay. But if you know the physiology enough, you can start to put all those approaches around that thing, and
Yes.
you can kind of move it forward a little faster in most cases. Not always.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like I said, there's a deferred issue.
Mm-hmm.
But, what I would love to do is coach everybody in this. If I had no other job, I would just
Exactly.
stay long. But I want your listeners to know that just listening to this today will get you to think a little differently about your health
Yeah.
and how you manage it tomorrow. Just one different thought, being a little more curious. Self-awareness underneath is the most important thing. Why am I eating that donut? What
Mm-hmm.
is it making me feel like? Why didn't I sleep last night very well? All of those are questions that need not to be answered, but need to be heard.
Yes.
If you just ask the body, then it will actually, it's thankful. You can tell there's a set of relief, like you paid attention. You paid
Yes.
attention to that symptom. Whoa. Okay, then I'm actually not alone in this because it's fighting all those outside factors and inside factors
Right.
of you. Your health is
Mhm.
the one that's going to be suffering if you don't
If you don't.
manage it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I agree completely. Just having listened today, you've already started some of that reorganization, and hopefully, as you're addressing the health issues that are coming up inevitably in your midlife, some of the stuff that Dr. Burron has talked to us about today is going to be stuff that you can think about, and maybe even come back to this podcast. That would be my hope. Where can my listeners find you, Alice?
So I have a website, Dr. Alice Burron, BURRON.com. So you can go find me there. Not a whole lot going on there except for a newsletter. So I will be sending you information and basically motivation around all the forces that are working against your health and what you can do about them. So first it's like, whoa, I haven't thought about this before. Maybe it's you're unaware of your health. So you could do some body scan meditations. I have that too.
Love it.
Maybe it's a lack of resources and you need to be innovative. I help you do that, and try to figure out what are some options for you, even when you don't have things like money or time. There's always something you can be doing, and I'll be kind of giving those tips away. And so there's a newsletter you can sign up for. And also my book will be released in next February-ish.
Yes.
I don't have to for it yet.
That's okay.
Forth a little bit with a publisher, but anyway, more to come on that, so you can follow that journey
so
too.
Yes, definitely. And maybe we can have you back on when it comes out so that we can help you kind of boost the publicity for that, because
I would love that.
I definitely think my listeners and myself could use the book itself for sure.
Just it is for the health hero, that person who has health humility, I call it, who is ready to learn more and do it a little bit better, so that the result will pay off. But
it'll pay off.
You have to first know that you do need a little help. None of us are doing this perfectly. and I can streamline it so you can get healthier faster and kind of save you that legwork. I got you.
Yes.
The other thing is I have the healthnavigator.org. That's my business website. And I actually have health navigator coaches is what we call them.
Nice.
If you have a health issue, you're welcome to reach out to me and I will connect you with a health navigator coach. And basically they're there on your team. They're not just coaching you like a health coach. They're actually walking you through the options, which one resonates with you, and actually supporting you through those scary emotions, those biases, asking the tough questions, and really fast tracking you to healing too.
Great.
So that's the healthnavigator.org. And then I would love if you followed me on Instagram. And that's
good. Yes. And remember, I'll always have all of these links in the notes, listeners. So wherever you found this podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, in the notes, if you go, you'll be able to link to all of those resources that Alice just shared with us.
And I just love talking to people about their health. And if you have a health concern and you just want to reach out, please do. You're not alone. We're all in this together. You know, it's a human experience, but if we don't band together, women in midlife, we are our best advocates.
Definitely.
So lean on each other. Lean on me, lean on those around you who can help support you in whatever way. But I'm here for you too.
Great. Thank you. And thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me. This was so fun.
You're so welcome. Oh my goodness. She didn't disappoint for sure. This was a really lovely podcast. And I was so fascinated that right off from the start, she was talking about self-awareness and compassion and self-care. Hello. Those are the first, 3 courses in my courses. She also is talking about unpacking the programming and conditioning of our world. So this is stuff that you've heard, listeners. This is stuff that you know. She is taking kind of the very same philosophy that I have taken in how to get into a centered life thriving, balance your emotional wellness here during midlife. She's taking a very similar approach to our physical health. And I really hope that you enjoyed the podcast, that you learned something, that you definitely bookmark this one because you'll want to come back. When you start to have symptoms during menopause, perimenopause, whatever, when you start to face health conditions at this age and stage in our life, you'll want to bookmark and come back to this one. And all the links to all of the resources that she shared on the podcast, I have made sure are in the notes. So make sure that you download that list that she offered to us. Make sure that you're listening for when her book comes out in February of 2025, because you'll want to be on top of this. And Dr. Alice Burron is definitely the health navigator that we all need to find our centered life thriving. Because I am a licensed clinical psychologist in the state of Minnesota, I have to make sure at the end of each of these episodes that I give you the disclaimer that none of the material that I talk about in these podcasts is meant to replace any kind of therapy or formal medical or mental health treatment. And in fact, anything that I offer on my website, my coaching programs, any kind of psychoeducational materials that I release are not a replacement for that level of care. So just take that into account when you listen. This is information for you, and hopefully you find it of value, both as an educational tool and for your entertainment. And I also want to mention that if anyone you know is in a mental health crisis, needs additional help, I always include these 2 crisis resources. They're available to anybody. Pick up the phone and dial 988 for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And you can always visit their website at suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Additionally, there's actually a crisis text line. So if you're not somebody that likes to pick up the phone, text HOME, home, to 741-741. to the crisis text line. You can find them online at crisistextline.org. Thank you for listening to my podcast, and I hope that you like and follow me wherever you get your podcasts, and maybe consider leaving me a review. It always helps me to keep this podcast relevant when I know what you want to hear about.